This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Chet Chris, London, UK. Nicholas Nickleby, by Charles Dickens. Chapter 24. Of the Great Bespeak for Miss Snevellicci, and the first appearance of Nicholas upon any stage. Nicholas was up betimes in the morning, but he had scarcely begun to dress, notwithstanding, when he heard footsteps ascending the stairs, and was presently saluted by the voices of Mr. Folair, the pantomimist, and Mr. Lenville, the tragedian. "House, house, house!" cried Mr. Folair. "What ho, within there!" said Mr. Lenville, in a deep voice. "Confound these fellows!" thought Nicholas. "They've come to breakfast, I suppose. I'll open the door directly, if you'll wait an instant." The gentlemen entreated him not to hurry himself, and, to beguile the interval, had a fencing bout with their walking sticks on the very small landing place, to the unspeakable discomposure of all the other lodgers downstairs. "Here, come in," said Nicholas, when he had completed his toilet. "In the name of all that's horrible, don't make that noise outside." "An uncommon snug little box this," said Mr. Lenville, stepping into the front room, and taking his hat off before he could get in at all. "Pernicious snug." "For a man at all particular in such matters, it might be a trifle too snug," said Nicholas, "for although it is undoubtedly a great convenience to be able to reach anything you want from the ceiling or the floor, or either side of the room, without having to move from your chair, still these advantages can only be had in an apartment of the most limited size." "It isn't a bit too confined for a single man?" returned Mr. Lenville. "Oh, that reminds me. My wife, Mr. Johnson, I hope she'll have some good part in this piece of yours." "I glanced at the French copy last night," said Nicholas. "It looks very good, I think." "What do you mean to do for me, old fellow?" asked Mr. Lenville, poking the struggling fire with his walking stick, and afterwards wiping it on the skirt of his coat. "Anything in the gruff and grumble way?" "You turn your wife and child out of doors," said Nicholas, "and, in a fit of rage and jealousy, stab your eldest son in the library." "Do I, though?" exclaimed Mr. Lenville. "That's very good business." "After which," said Nicholas, "you are troubled with remorse till the last act, and then you make up your mind to destroy yourself, but just as you are raising the pistol to your head, a clock strikes 10. "I see," said Mr. Lenville. "Very good." "You pause," said Nicholas. "You recollect to have heard a clock strike 10 in your infancy. The pistol falls from your hand. You are overcome. You burst into tears, and become a virtuous and exemplary character for ever afterwards." "Capital," said Mr. Lenville. "That's a sure card, a sure card. Get the curtain down with a touch of nature like that, and it'll be a triumphant success." "Is there anything good for me?" inquired Mr. Folair, anxiously. "Let me see," said Nicholas. "You play the faithful and attached servant. You are turned out of doors with the wife and child." "Always coupled with that infernal phenomenon," sighed Mr. Folair. "And we go into poor lodgings where I won't take any wages, and talk sentiment, I suppose." "Why, yes," replied Nicholas, "that is the course of the piece." "I must have a dance of some kind, you know," said Mr. Folair. "You'll have to introduce one for the phenomenon, so you'd better make a pas de deux and save time." "There's nothing easier than that," said Mr. Lenville, observing the disturbed looks of the young dramatist. "Upon my word, I don't see how it's to be done," rejoined Nicholas. "Why, isn't it obvious?" reasoned Mr. Lenville. "Gadzooks, who can help seeing the way to do it? You astonish me. You get the distressed lady and the little child and the attached servant into the poor lodgings, don't you? Well, look here. The distressed lady sinks into a chair and buries her face in her pocket handkerchief. 'What makes you weep, mama?' says the child. 'Don't weep, mama, or you'll make me weep too. "And me," says the favourite servant, rubbing his eyes with his arm. "What can we do to raise your spirits, dear mamma?" says the little child. "Ay, what CAN we do?" says the faithful servant. "Oh, Pierre," says the distressed lady, "would that I could shake off these painful thoughts." "Try, ma'am, try," says the faithful servant. "Rouse yourself, ma'am. Be amused." "I will," says the lady. "I will learn to suffer with fortitude. Do you remember that dance, my honest friend, which in happier days you practised with this sweet angel? It never failed to calm my spirits then. Oh, let me see it once again before I die. There it is. Cue for the band. Before I die. And off they go. That's the regular thing. Isn't it, Tommy?" "That's it," replied Mr. Folair. "The distressed lady, overpowered by old recollections, faints at the end of the dance, and you close in with a picture." Profiting by these and other lessons, which were the result of the personal experience of the two actors, Nicholas willingly gave them the best breakfast he could, and, when he at length got rid of them, applied himself to his task, by no means displeased to find that it was so much easier than he had at first supposed. He worked very hard all day, and did not leave his room until the evening, when he went down to the theatre, whither Smike had repaired before him, to go on with another gentleman as a general rebellion. Here all the people were so much changed that he scarcely knew them. False hair, false colour, false calves, false muscles, they had become different beings. Mr. Lenville was a blooming warrior of most exquisite proportions. Mr. Crummles, his large face shaded by a profusion of black hair, a Highland outlaw of most majestic bearing. One of the old gentlemen a jailer, and the other a venerable patriarch. The comic countryman a fighting man of great valour, relieved by a touch of humour. Each of the Master Crummleses a prince in his own right, and the low-spirited lover a desponding captive. There was a gorgeous banquet ready spread for the third act, consisting of 2 pasteboard vases, 1 plate of biscuits, a black bottle, and a vinegar cruet, and, in short, everything was on a scale of the utmost splendour and preparation. Nicholas was standing with his back to the curtain, now contemplating the first scene, which was a Gothic archway about 2 feet shorter than Mr. Crummles, through which that gentleman was to make his first entrance, and now listening to a couple of people who were cracking nuts in the gallery, wondering whether they made the whole audience, when the manager himself walked familiarly up and accosted him. "Been in front tonight?" said Mr. Crummles. "No," replied Nicholas, "not yet. I'm going to see the play." "We've had a pretty good let," said Mr. Crummles. 4 front places in the centre, and the whole of the stage box." "Oh, indeed," said Nicholas. "A family, I suppose?" "Yes," replied Mr. Crummles, "yes. It's an affecting thing. There are 6 children, and they never come unless the Phenomenon plays." It would have been difficult for any party, family or otherwise, to have visited the theatre on a night when the Phenomenon did not play, inasmuch as she always sustained 1, and not uncommonly 2 or 3 characters every night. But Nicholas, sympathising with the feelings of a father, refrained from hinting at this trifling circumstance, and Mr. Crummles continued to talk, uninterrupted by him. "6," said that gentleman. "Pa and ma 8, aunt 9, governess 10, grandfather and grandmother 12. Then there's the footman, who stands outside with a bag of oranges and a jug of toast and water, and sees the play for nothing through the little pane of glass in the box door. It's cheap at a guinea. They gain by taking a box." "I wonder you allow so many," observed Nicholas. "There's no help for it," replied Mr. Crummles. "It's always expected in the country. If there are 6 children, 6 people come to hold them in their laps. A family box carries double always. Ring in the orchestra, Grudden." That useful lady did as she was requested, and shortly afterwards the tuning of 3 fiddles was heard, which process having been protracted as long as it was supposed that the patience of the audience could possibly bear it,